Good day, I am Archie Balrup and this screencast is centered around highlighting the main events as well as the role of communication and ethics in the 1991 Flight 751 disaster. The main entities involved in this occurrence were Scandinavian Airlines and Bombardier Aerospace. The flight was scheduled for takeoff on the 27th December 1991 and live footage at the scene of the disaster revealed the following video. Although it may appear that this was as a result of poor engineering, the cause of the disaster truly was the decision of some individuals and their poor work ethics. In this disaster, which created quite a stir worldwide, the presiding piloting team consisted of Danish captain Stefan Rasmussen and Swedish First Officer Ulf Cedermark. Another individual who made quite an immense contribution in this relay of events was one of SAS's flight captains, Per Holmberg, who at the time of the incident was traveling as a passenger aboard the aircraft. The aircraft had arrived from Zurich the evening before takeoff, and the considerably low temperatures facilitated the formation of a couple layers of clear ice on the upper side of both the wings. On the morning of the launch, 2 rounds of de-icing was requested by the presiding captain, who was assured that the aircraft was spotless upon execution of such an intense de-icing operation by the technicians. Little was the technicians aware that only a fraction of the ice layers were removed, thus being entangled into the perception that both the wings were spotless upon defrosting. This was a pure act of negligence both on his part and that of his superiors, mainly because a ladder or higher elevated de-icing platform was not implemented in inspection for the presence of ice. As is quite evident from this very incident, such negligent actions do possess quite catastrophic repercussions. Although the de-icing responsibility ultimately falls on the captain's shoulders, according to Thor Hultgren, head of the SAS Accident Investigation Squad, the captain did the correct thing. However, it was the negligent actions of his de-icing crew which betrayed his expertise. As was previously mentioned, the reason behind the disaster was not a direct engineering failure. However, eternally it draws back to the mechanical failure of a machine. What really transpired was the surging and eventual destruction of the dual DC-9 engines located on the upper side of both wing assemblies. Now, due to the presence of the ice on the upper side of the wings, as the plane began its ascent, fragments of ice were sucked into the engines themselves by virtue of the motion of the titanium fan blades, as is seen on the right-hand figure. Upon impact, this resulted in the mangling or deformation of the blades, causing the air to be directed towards the end of the engines. This disturbed airflow caused the compressors to stall. The violent or explosive ignition of the fuels due to a ruptured fuel line then occurred, which shooted forward and resulted in the surging, repeated occurrence of which resulted in the self-destruction of both the DC engines, as seen in the left-hand figure. Another baffling revelation was made by the plane manufacturers a couple of months after the crash. The pilot claimed that although he reduced the amount of propulsion on the aircraft as the surge began, an accentuated thrust response was recorded on the meters. The explanation for this lay in the integration of a new safety feature, ATR, into the device's control panel to eliminate fluctuations within the engine in the event that too large a reduction is effected by the pilot. However, this was indeed an unethical and negligent move by the manufacturers, since according to Thor Hultgren, such a major alteration was performed and they never deemed it fit to inform the relevant authorities. It is indeed disheartening to learn that although the onboard pilots displayed commendable and impeccable dedication towards their duty in attempting to prevent this disaster, such a large and potentially detrimental loophole was masked by the authorities. Another noteworthy feature here was the dedication of one of SAS's pilots who at that point were traveling on the plane as a passenger. It was indeed a noble deed in its entirety, the fact that he selflessly rendered his expertise to the presiding pilots in this predicament. Nevertheless, had the pilot been aware of this feature, he could have simply switched off the plane and possibly could have been able to make it back to the takeoff point securely. Although it was indeed warming to learn that not a single life was lost, the aircraft flying fraternity indeed suffered a major loss as Captain Rasmussen retired from duty after this occurrence. Additionally, a change in protocol was implemented that the technicians feel for ice with their bare hands prior to takeoff. It was indeed a blessing in disguise that no lives were lost. However, the detrimental repercussions which could have resulted can only be imagined.